Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, Angela Rayner, joins us now. It's lovely to see you. Thank you for coming.
Welcome back.
I'm in a really good mood now. Half term, Gordon the Gopher, squeeze. I feel like
you are very welcome.
7 again.
Right, let's have a look at all of this. Obviously, the opposition parties yesterday, the first call, and it was expected that it would be, we need an immediate general election. But you're not going to get one because that would be like the turkeys voting for Christmas, surely.
Well, this is the problem, because they're running scared of a general election because they think they won't win it. And the problem is because the public have lost confidence. We've had 3 prime ministers in 3 months. It's like a merry-go-round. And now it's time to put it back to the country and let the country decide on a platform of a manifesto what they want for the future going forward.
That was my point. The thing is that it's not a presidential system. The way it works for all parties is that you're voting for the party and not the person, so you won't get one.
Well, we're saying quite categorically that, like I say, it's extraordinary that we've had 3 prime ministers in 3 months. We don't see situations like this. And the last prime minister obviously wrecked our economy, and now we're in very difficult times. So it's difficult compared to where it was in 2019. And now we think that the public should have a debate about how we do things going forward. You know, there's talk about austerity again and cutting public services. These are big decisions about how we deal with the crisis, the economic crisis we now face because of that mini budget and what's happening. So we think it should be put to the public because that's democracy and they should have a say in it.
Well, this is what I was going to ask you, actually, because a few things that he said in his speech yesterday, you know, one of the things he said was there was obviously mistakes with Liz Truss, and he was saying that it was his job to now fix them. He talked about difficult decisions. So from your side, reading between the lines there, what does that mean?
Well, he talked about an economic crisis, and the economic crisis is because of that mini budget. So it means that there's a huge black hole now in the finances. So I think, you know, Rishi Sunak is going to, you know, look at whether he cuts taxes or whether he has to raise taxes, whether he cuts public services. And these are big choices about how we try and grow the economy into the future and who pays for the damage that has been done to our economy. Labour don't believe that ordinary working people who are really struggling at the moment, that are paying for this disaster of a budget, should have to be paying more. So that's why we've talked about the windfall tax. We've talked about taking charitable status from private schools so we can fund breakfast clubs for people. We've talked about getting rid of the non-dom status and making sure that that's going into our NHS so we can get more doctors and nurses. So these are big decisions that we think the public should have scrutiny over and should be able to say. Rishi Sunak has said nothing about what he's going to do to, you know, deal with those challenges that we face.
In this situation, and again, I mean, later on today and tomorrow and for the next few weeks, until you get one, you will be calling for a general election. Don't you think if you got one now, if you said, right, OK, let's go for one now, that is actually irresponsible, because the state we're all in, this state of flux, that you need something solid to get the wheels back on before you can decide who drives the train?
Yeah, but part of the problem is, and the reason why the market's responded in the way they have, is because the Conservatives have lost control. And now the confidence...
Markets are back now, though.
Sure, they've... Well, I mean, it was a low bar after what Liz Truss did. You know, it went really low. So, but the challenge that the Conservatives face is being able to gain that confidence back after the damage that has been done. And that's why we believe a general election where you set out all of your fiscal plans is the way to go forward.
Wouldn't that be 4 to 6 weeks of inactivity and sort of another paralysed government?
Well, I'm hearing now that we're not even going to get the financial statement on Monday that was promised. And again, that's just going to make people nervous. Rishi Sunak hasn't said how he's going to balance the books. We know there's a black hole now because of the Liz Truss mini budget. So really, those instability are there in the markets and there for people to see. What we want to see is voters having a real say on what are the challenges and being able to scrutinise political parties about how you're going to solve it. Because this isn't just about the next couple of weeks. This is about how we're going into the long term of how we grow our economy and who pays for the mess that we're now in because of that mini budget.
Are the Labour Party pleased that it's Rishi and not Boris? Because at one point it was looking like this revolving door could produce him again.
I mean, the idea of bringing back Boris Johnson after he lied to the public, broke the rules, was just absolutely outrageous. And I'm pleased that the Conservative Party recognised that, because, you know, ethics in politics does matter. But the first thing that Rishi Sunak has done is brought Suella back in as Home Secretary, when only a week ago she resigned because she broke security and broke the rules on sending emails when she's Home Secretary. So again, my concern that we've seen is that the ethics and the standards that we should have in public life are being eroded by the Conservatives and the choices they're making. I mean, this is putting party before the country by bringing Suella back after 7 days after she did wrong, and she admitted she did wrong and resigned. I mean, that is again, it's showing that they haven't got the right answers for the country.
Would you table a motion of no confidence?
Well, the problem is that, like you say, the Conservatives feel like they're not turkeys voting for Christmas. So they're conscious of the Conservative MPs. If they're confident that Rishi Sunak is the answer, then they should put that to the country, and then the country can decide. At the moment, they're not willing to do that.
But you wouldn't table
if we table the motion of no confidence, I suspect that they'll vote to prop up the Conservatives, because that, you know, they have a majority at the moment, and therefore I believe that's what they'll do. But they know, as well as we know, that actually they haven't got the mandate. That's why they were going to bring back Boris Johnson. They said, oh, well, he got the mandate in 2019. They haven't got the mandate for what's happened now, and they know that's the right answer, but they're running scared of the public, because they know the public are angry about what's happened and the way in which they've failed them and let them down.
But I think the public across the board in all parties have kind of, the problem is this lack of trust, really, in all politicians in general. You say the word politicians and instantly you go, don't trust any of them.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that is my frustration.
Change that?
That's my frustration with when I talked about ethics and standards in public life, because across the board, majority of MPs do the right thing, and they don't behave in a disgraceful way, and they go into public service because they believe in doing a public good. Conservative MPs feel that as well, and I absolutely believe that. But when you act in a way that looks like you're going against the public, or when people get away with behaviours, which we've seen, and nothing's been done to challenge that, it does mean that it's a stain on all of us, because the public recognise that and say, well, you're all in it for yourselves. And it's not true. Majority of MPs are not. But when they see bad behaviour and they see people getting away with it, then you can see why the public feel frustrated about that.
Isn't there a positive here, though, that the country has taken a step forward in one area, and that is the fact that we have our first British Asian? Yeah,
I definitely think that. And, you know, as someone who's from a working class background with an accent, I always say, like, when I come on shows like this, people say it's so good to hear someone like you who's different. And to see Rishi Sunak as the Prime Minister, as someone from his background, then I think that will inspire a lot of young people to say, you know what, I can see myself in that person, I can go into politics. And I think that is a really positive step forward in our public life, because people need to see themselves within their politicians.
Definitely. Although with him, he's also been accused slightly of being unrelatable in another way because of his worth. I mean, when you look how, I mean, part of me thinks this shouldn't have anything to do with it as long as somebody does the job well. But he's estimated a fortune of 730 million, nearly double that of King Charles himself. And people are saying, you know, what will he know? He can't identify. He doesn't know what it's like to be on the breadline because he's living in his lifestyle that he does.
I think the challenge I've got to Rishi Sunak is his family were avoiding tax through the non-dom status at a time when he was Chancellor and making taxes, you know, and deciding on taxes of working people in this country. That was incredibly challenging with the national insurance contribution rises. At the same time, his family with huge wealth were avoiding through various schemes them paying their full tax in the UK. That's the area and the policies we should be challenging on. But that doesn't mean to say that, you know, having somebody from Rishi's background become Prime Minister is not a great thing for our country. I think a lot of people, especially we've got Diwali as well, I think a lot of people, and, you know, and I recognise that because, you know, when you see people that look like you, then it does inspire you to think, I can do that. And I think a lot of people in the country, a lot of young people will see Rishi being there and think, I could do that. And I think that's a positive thing.
Really important,
When you say I could do that, honestly, you walk into Downing Street and you are, whatever post you are given by Sir Keir Starmer, you've got to know that whoever walks through that door at this moment, given the fallout from Brexit, given the COVID fortune that cost us, given this massive war in Ukraine, That is a daunting inbox.
Well, it is. It's a challenge, but it's about priorities as well. And, you know, I mentioned before about, you know, charitable status for private schools or free breakfast clubs for most kids that go to school. I think
but still, you did say that.
Yeah, of course.
But there
is challenges, but it's about the choices you make, and it's also about the confidence you give. And that's the problem now, is the confidence in the Conservative Party has been eroded. I'm not sure that Rishi is going to be able to hold his coalition together. I know he's tried to do that with the people he's appointed into his cabinet, but I'm sceptical of his ability to be able to hold those people together, especially with the challenges they now face because of the mini budget. We're together as a team in the Labour Party. We know there's going to be difficult challenges ahead, but we'll always put working people first, and that is our priority.
So when the Economist,
we've got the answers to that, because we would prioritise that, whereas we've seen with the Conservatives, the lift on bankers' bonuses is still there, present, at the same time where they haven't reassured people on universal credit that they're going to get an uplift in their benefits in line with inflation.
Just finally, when you look at the Economist, the people who sort of study finance, and they all say there is a ridiculously small amount of wriggle room here to try and get everything sorted. You guys feel confident that you could find the money to sort this out?
We're not going to be able to do everything we'd want to do. We're very clear on that. As a Labour government coming in, there's lots of things we'd like to do immediately that we won't be able to do. But we're very confident that we could make working people better off, because it's about choices you make and how you grow our economy going into the future. That's why we want a general election, so we can put that to the people. The Conservatives can do that, all of the political parties can, and people can make a choice about how they, how we govern into the future. And I think that will give people more confidence again. I know a lot of people don't work their lives by politics, but politics matters.
It affects everything.
It affects everything. So I think they should have the final say.
Do you think the country knows, looking at Sir Keir Starmer, do you think they know what he's going to do? Because a lot of people who voted Labour their whole lives say, I vote Labour, but I don't know what it means.
Yeah, well, that's another reason why a general election gives other political parties that platform where we can set out what our plan for the country is, so that people can see that. I think people are starting to see Keir Starmer more. You know, they know what he's about. They see his values. They see that he's got integrity and he wants to do the right thing. And I think having a general election will give people the opportunity to say, well, what would Labour do? How would it change my lives? And how is it different to what the Conservatives are doing? And it gets scrutinised in that way. And that's a positive.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.